My name is Thomas Shaw. I work for Digit Game Studios in Dublin, and I'm a principal automation engineer. Okay, whenever I was 22, I was a student in Queen's University in Belfast. I won an all-expenses paid trip to New York. I'd never been out of Northern Ireland at the time, so myself and my cousin found ourselves walking around New York in the middle of July, which is like really, really hot. And yeah, we never forgot that experience. I've been involved in the Docker Dublin meetup since 2014. We have over 3,000 members. That's probably the largest group that I'm involved in. And the more recent group would be Rural Ireland Tech Advocates, which is RITA for short. We only started this up in April. We have about 21 tech advocates from all over Ireland. We meet up regularly. We released our first podcast quite recently. And then also I'm the organizer of ShipItCon. So we've built up a bit of a community around ShipItCon as well, which is a conference that we hold every couple of years in Dublin. And it's all about software delivery. How can you get software from the developer's brains to the customer's hands as quickly as possible? And we're hoping to have another ShipItCon in 2022. I'm quite old school in terms of what tools that I use. Obviously you need a spreadsheet somewhere, like you can't organize an event without a spreadsheet. And then we use tools like Slack and Discord for comms between organizers, between speakers. And then tools like MailChimp are really handy just for sending out updates to like large groups of folks, maybe sponsors or speakers. So that's probably the three main tools that I would use. As I say, it's quite traditional tooling. I haven't used anything to next generation just yet. Creating events where everybody feels welcome and safe is like it's a real key to like building strong communities, having events that become popular and that people enjoy going to. Nobody wants to go to an event where they feel like they're being excluded, where maybe the event itself maybe hasn't been set up to cater for like certain groups, certain demographics. Like nobody wants that. So the key is just inclusion. Like try to create events that welcome everyone, and obviously a code of conduct is like key. Folks are well within their rights to not go to events that don't have a code of conduct. It's a bit of a red flag these days if an event doesn't have a code of conduct. So, yeah, inclusion would be the main sort of point. The first word that pops into my mind is opportunity. Whenever you have folks in a community, you can really use the privilege of the folks in the community to level up other folks. So for example, in the Docker community, we have thousands of members. We have the typical sort of like typical demographic of a lot of tech organizations. We have a lot of white guys in their 30s and 40s with tattoos and beards, like myself. But we can use that privilege to help other folks who maybe aren't as well off. Maybe they're from a different demographic. Maybe financially they don't have the ability to get themselves into the industry or in the position where they're working in senior jobs. So I think like strength, like leveraging the privilege of others to pass the ladder down and to help other folks get into the tech industry. I really like to have some sort of slogan or motto around the event, something that kind of sticks into the developers' minds. I think Docker's been very good at this in the past. Like Docker has a nice Moby logo. They tend to have like a topic or some sort of like focal point for the events, which I think is really strong. For example, they'll have like hackathons, they'll have the birthday events, just stuff that will kind of stick into folks' minds. Because there's so many events that happen, like it's very easy just to miss them. But if you have one that has a really exciting like background, it could be like a capture the flag or a hackathon that tends to like stick in developers' minds more. I think without community, the tech industry itself could be quite lonely. That's coming from myself personally. I kind of find that my best self is whenever I'm involved in communities. Like I want to be able to use my sort of privilege and background to help others. I was very lucky whenever I started out my career. I was an intern in Sun Microsystems in Dublin, which I know Vicky was at as well. And I had a great set of peers. I had mentors. I had a really lucky start to my career, and that made all the difference. So I'm kind of hoping that being involved in my local tech community, I can kind of pass some of that on to the next generation of developers and operators. I guess the biggest challenge is like picking the right tools and the right platform for the online event. Time zones is also something that kind of catches folks unaware. But yeah, there's so many options out there. Like for RITA, for example, we've tried out a few different platforms. Trying to find one that suits everybody is probably the most challenging part. But yeah, we started using Discord quite recently, which we seem to really like. Very easy to set up, very easy to navigate for folks who maybe aren't super technical. So we tried just to try out a few different platforms to find one that suits the most folks. My advice to anybody who's just starting out and wants to get involved in organising events is just to jump right in. There's no time like the present. You'll learn a lot just by getting started. Maybe reach out to a community that's well known, that's welcoming, and kind of just use that to learn from other folks. The Docker community was one that really, it's one that I found very useful over the past few years because it is so welcoming. And we have folks in there from all over the world, all different backgrounds. That's just a really nice way to learn about how these events are being set up and just meeting people with like lots of different opinions and like different backgrounds. It's very useful. So just jump right in. That's my advice. I always try to look for the positives in any event at all. I've organised some hackathons in the past that have been disastrous. One that really sticks in my mind, we had like 120 folks sign up for it. So we organised food and merchandise for 120 folks, and then like 17 people showed up. So that's quite a tough one to take, but like I learned from that mistake. So as long as you're always learning from your events, and you probably learn more from the events that are a real disaster than the ones that run smoothly. And as long as you don't commit the same mistakes twice, then I think it's fine. It's just a learning experience. It's just take it on the chin and move on to the next event. For ShipItCon 2022, we would like to do an in-person event, but we'd also have like a remote aspect to it. We kind of recognize that it's nice for like the in-person event, but it does exclude a certain, it excludes a lot of people, like just folks who can't make it up to Dublin. Maybe you have to travel from different parts of the world or different parts of the country. So we want to make it a bit more accessible. So it will be more of a hybrid ShipItCon in 2022. We also want to extend the RITA community, potentially have like RITA sponsored meetups where we'll have tech advocates go out and talk about what it's like to live in rural Ireland, some of the pros and cons. So there is potential for that in 2022 as well. I guess like identifying the areas early on, the ones that you can kind of handle yourselves. So for example, for ShipItCon, like we knew that we could handle the websites, we could handle like the ticketing system, setting that up. But stuff like at the venue, like sounds, recording, that's all like out of our league. So we identified quite early what we could handle and what we couldn't. And then we looked at the value that those other additional costs would add. So for example, having videos for ShipItCon 2022, we want to be streamed live. So that adds a lot of value. So we would like definitely get a production team in for that. We wouldn't want to mess it up ourselves. But yeah, just I guess identify the areas that you can cover yourself and your organisers, and then everything else, if you can get sponsors to cover the costs of production, then yeah, it's definitely worth doing.